The Galactic Concordat had perfected first contact over 10,000 years. Their process was elaborate yet gentle, designed to ease primitive species into the galactic community. They had never failed, until they met humans. High Observer Weeks stood before the Concordat's central chamber, his luminescent patterns displaying distress as he delivered his report. The massive amphitheater, filled with representatives from 500 species, fell silent as he spoke. "The humans have done the impossible," Weeks announced, his voice trembling. "They've weaponized our greeting gifts." The chamber erupted in disbelief. The Concordat's traditional first contact packages contained basic medical technology, agricultural improvements, and clean energy examples. They were deliberately designed to be impossible to weaponize, or so they had thought. "Explain," demanded first speaker Zura, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of concern. "They took our atmospheric purifiers, devices meant to clean their polluted skies, and converted them into weapons that can manipulate gravitational fields. They transformed our medical nanites into microscopic manufacturing systems. But most incredibly, they discovered principles in our technology that we ourselves hadn't realized existed." The chamber's agitation grew, voices raised in concern, fear, and fascination. The humans had accomplished in months what should have taken centuries. "We followed protocol," Weeks continued. "We sent our greeting ships to their largest population centers, broadcasting peace in all their languages. Instead of responding with joy like every other species, they treated our arrival as a potential invasion. Their military forces mobilized within hours. Their scientists began analyzing our technology immediately. Their governments, usually fractured and competitive, unified with unprecedented speed." First speaker Zura's crystalline form dimmed in thought. Surely they understood our peaceful intentions. "The gifts were clearly beneficial. That's what makes humans unique," Weeks replied. "They didn't reject our gifts. They accepted them, studied them, and reproposed them. Their historical records show a species that has faced countless invasions, betrayals, and conflicts among themselves. They've developed an institutional memory that assumes peaceful overtures might mask hostile intentions." The chamber fell silent as recordings played, showing human scientists methodically disassembling Concordat technology, testing it, reconstructing it in new ways. Their progress was remarkable and terrifying. Within 6 months, they've developed defensive systems that can detect our stealth technology. They've created weapons that can pierce our strongest shields. But most importantly, they've begun to understand principles of space-time manipulation that took our civilization millennia to master. A representative from the militant Caxixi species rose. "Then we must strike now, while we still hold technological superiority." "That's exactly what makes humans so dangerous," Weeks countered. "They expect such reactions. Our surveillance suggests they've already prepared for this possibility. They've distributed their new technologies across multiple hidden locations. They've developed contingency plans we don't fully understand. And most worryingly, they've shown signs of already attempting to reach out to species who might be dissatisfied with Concordat rule." First speaker Zura's form brightened suddenly. "You mean?" "Yes," Weeks confirmed. "The humans have already realized that our civilization isn't as unified as we presented. They've identified potential allies among species we thought were completely loyal to the Concordat. They don't just learn technology. They understand politics, strategy, and psychology with frightening speed." The chamber erupted in chaos. Thousands of years of carefully maintained galactic order faced its greatest challenge, not from a technologically superior force, but from a young species that saw opportunities where others saw only gifts, that treated peace offerings as potential weapons, and that understood the power of division within unity. "We have 3 options," Weeks concluded. "We can attack and likely face consequences we cannot predict. We can attempt to isolate them, though they've already shown they can reverse engineer faster than light technology. Or we can do something the Concordat has never done in its history. Approach a primitive species as equals and negotiate without preconditions. The chamber's silence spoke volumes. The galaxy was about to change, and every species present knew it. Humanity had turned the Concordat's most peaceful gesture into their greatest challenge, and no one could predict what would happen next. The Concordat's emergency session had lasted for 3 full cycles. While the galaxy's most powerful civilization debated, humanity didn't wait. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at test results that defied everything she thought she knew about physics. "Run it again," she ordered, her team of international scientists already moving to comply. The captured alien device, no larger than a coffee cup, contained enough computing power to rival all of Earth's supercomputers combined. But that wasn't what made it revolutionary. Same results, her colleague Dr. Patel confirmed. The device doesn't just manipulate gravity, it manipulates probability itself. The aliens weren't giving us medical technology. They were giving us the keys to quantum manipulation on a macro scale. In orbit, Admiral Helena Rodriguez watched the latest sensor data from Earth's hastily constructed defense grid. The alien ships had withdrawn to the edge of the solar system, but they hadn't left. They were watching, waiting, probably debating. She didn't trust their patience. "Status of Project Mirror," she asked her XO. 90% complete, Admiral. The quantum entanglement network will be online in 48 hours. If the aliens try to shut down our conventional communications, we'll still be able to coordinate globally. The Admiral nodded. Humanity had learned from its own history. No more single points of failure. No centralized command centers. No putting all their technological eggs in one basket. Meanwhile, in the Concordat chamber, First Speaker Zera faced mounting pressure. The militant factions wanted immediate military action. The diplomatic court advocated for more attempts at peaceful contact. The scientific community was both terrified and fascinated by human advancement. "You don't understand," Weeks argued before the chamber. "Every attempt we make to contain them only accelerates their development. We tried to disable their primitive satellite network. They developed quantum communications in response. We attempted to interfere with their electronic systems. They created organic computing alternatives within weeks." A representative from the ancient mockery species raised an appendage. "Perhaps we should consider why we fear them so much. In all our history, we've never encountered a species that thinks like they do." "Exactly," another delegate countered. "They're unpredictable, dangerous." Back on Earth, in a secret facility beneath the Sahara Desert, Dr. James Wong made a breakthrough that would change everything. His team had been studying the aliens' faster-than-light technology, but they'd approached it from a uniquely human perspective. "Look," he explained to the UN Security Council via secure quantum link. "The aliens use space-time manipulation for faster-than-light travel, but they're thinking too linearly. Their technology treats space-time like a road, something to travel along. We're approaching it differently." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "We're treating space-time like an ocean. Instead of building better engines, we're learning to create waves, currents, and tides. The aliens cross space. We're learning to surf it." The council members exchanged glances. "How long until this is practical?" "That's the thing," Wong replied. "We already have a working prototype. Small scale, but it works. And the aliens won't see it coming because they've never conceived of using their technology this way." In the Martian orbit, the Concordat fleet detected unusual energy signatures from Earth. Their sensors, the most advanced in the galaxy, couldn't make sense of the readings. It looked like space-time itself was beginning to ripple around the planet. First Speaker Zera received the reports with growing concern. The humans weren't just learning. Most worryingly, there were signs that humans had already made contact with several species that had long chafed under Concordat rule. The galaxy's carefully maintained order was unraveling, not through force, but through ideas. Human concepts of independence, innovation, and questioning authority were spreading like wildfire among younger members of even the most conservative species. The Concordat faced a choice: adapt to a galaxy where they weren't the sole arbiters of civilization, or risk losing everything they'd built. And the humans, still united by their first extraterrestrial challenge, were just getting started. The message arrived through channels that shouldn't have existed. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the quantum-encrypted transmission, its origin unmistakably alien, but its method distinctly human-influenced. Someone out there had been studying Earth's newly developed quantum communications very carefully. "We are the Nexus," the message began. "We represent species who believe the Concordat's time has passed. We've been watching how you've handled their gifts." The UN Security Council convened within the hour. Representatives attended virtually through the quantum network, their secure holograms gathering in a virtual space that even the Concordat couldn't penetrate. Admiral Rodriguez's avatar sat forward, her expression grave. "Multiple alien factions have reached out," she reported. "Not just the Nexus. The Concordat's perfect facade is cracking. Seems we're not the only ones who questioned their methods." Dr. Wong's hologram nodded. "Their technological development has been stagnant for millennia. They perfect what they know but never question their fundamental assumptions. Some of their member species have noticed." In deep space, aboard the Nexus flagship, Commander Ixera watched the human transmissions with fascination. Her species, the Vorkath, had joined the Concordat 10,000 years ago. They'd accepted the limitations, the careful control of technological development, the strict hierarchy. But watching humans tear apart that careful order with questions and innovations had awakened something long dormant in her people. "They're requesting a direct meeting," her communications officer reported, "using our own encryption protocols. But they've improved them." Ixera felt her wings flutter in excitement. "Of course they have. That's why we chose them. Prepare the quantum bridge." The quantum bridge was a human innovation, combining Concordat technology with Earth's newly developed probability manipulation. It allowed real-time communication across vast distances through artificial quantum entanglement. The Concordat considered it impossible. Humans had made it work in months. On Earth, in a secured facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, the first direct communication between humans and the Nexus began. Dr. Chen led the Earth delegation, facing holographic representations of 7 different alien species. "The Concordat's mistake," Ixera explained, "was giving you gifts without understanding you. We've studied your history, your literature, your philosophies. You've imagined meeting aliens for centuries. You've considered every possibility, including betrayal. Which is why we were prepared." Admiral Rodriguez replied. "But why reach out to us now?" A hologram shifted, revealing a serpentine being with crystalline scales. "Because you've proven that the Concordat's way isn't the only way. Their perfect process of uplifting species is based on creating dependency. But you took their gifts and made them your own." Dr. Wong joined the conversation. "You're talking about more than just technology, aren't you?" "Much more," Ixera confirmed. "The Concordat maintains order by making every species feel grateful, indebted. They give gifts but maintain control of the underlying principles. You humans instead asked why and how and what if. Do you know how revolutionary that is?" In the Concordat chamber, the crisis deepened. Reports arrived of member species beginning to experiment with technology in ways that mirrored human approaches. Young scientists across the galaxy were asking questions that had been discouraged for millennia. First speaker Zera faced the chamber, her crystalline form clouded with worry. "The humans have infected our civilization with their chaos. Their ideas spread like a virus." "No," Veeks countered, his patterns showing a new understanding. "They've reminded us of something we forgot. The questions we stopped asking. The innovations we abandoned in favor of stability." Back in the underwater facility, the Human Nexus Conference continued. Plans were made, alliances formed, and a new vision of galactic civilization began to take shape. one based not on grateful dependency but on mutual growth and shared innovation. The Concordat will resist, XRA warned. They've maintained control too long to give it up easily. Admiral Rodriguez smiled. That's exactly what we're counting on. Because while they're watching for human ships and human weapons, they're missing the real threat: human ideas. Dr. Chen opened a secure channel to display Earth's latest breakthrough. We've learned to surf space-time. Now, let us show you how to make waves. The Nexus representatives watched in amazement as humans demonstrated technology that broke every rule the Concordat had established. But more importantly, they showed ways of thinking that broke every assumption about how civilization should develop. The galaxy was changing, not through war, but through revolution of thought. And humanity, the species that had turned gifts into innovations and fear into progress, was leading the way. The Concordat's response was swift and predictable. Their massive fleet appeared at the edges of the solar system, a show of force meant to remind humanity of their place in the galactic hierarchy. But Earth wasn't the primitive world they'd first encountered months ago. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, humanity's first true space warfare vessel. It didn't look impressive by Concordat standards, a patchwork of human and alien technologies that seemed almost crude. That was exactly the point. Multiple Concordat ships approaching. Her tactical officer reported. They're using standard faster-than-light vectors. No sign they've detected our space-time distortion field. Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. The Concordat's ships traveled through space like arrows, direct and predictable. The Prometheus surfed through it like a wave, riding the quantum probabilities that Dr. Chen's team had learned to manipulate. In the Nexus Command Center, Commander XRA watched the unfolding situation with growing excitement. The Concordat still thinks this is about military strength, she commented to her human liaison, Dr. Wang. They haven't realized it's already an economic and cultural war. She was right. Across the galaxy, species that had been dependent on Concordat technology were beginning to experiment with human hybrid innovations. The humans hadn't just created new technology. They created new ways of thinking about technology. Status report from the Martian colonies, Dr. Wang's assistant interrupted. The quantum manufacturing plants are online. We're now producing technology that combines Concordat principles with human innovations. This was humanity's true weapon. While the Concordat expected military resistance, Earth had turned their solar system into an innovation factory. They weren't just developing technology. They were sharing it with any species willing to think differently. The Concordat fleet advanced, led by First Speaker Zura herself. Their weapons were the most powerful in known space, refined over thousands of years. But they had never encountered anything like what humanity had developed in mere months. Multiple space-time distortions detected, reported a Concordat sensor officer. The humans are. They're changing the fundamental properties of space around their fleet. The human ships didn't try to overpower the Concordat's weapons. Instead, they surfed through probability waves, appearing where they had only a quantum chance of being. Traditional targeting systems became useless against vessels that existed in multiple probable locations simultaneously. But the real battle wasn't happening in space. In laboratories and workshops across 1,000 worlds, scientists and engineers were beginning to ask what-if questions that had been discouraged for millennia. The Concordat's careful control of technological development was unraveling. Your ships are impressive, First Speaker Zura transmitted to the Prometheus. But you cannot match our industrial capacity. We can replace our losses. Can you? Admiral Rodriguez's response was to transmit data, not to the Concordat fleet, but to every species in the galaxy. Plans for quantum manufacturing. Designs for hybrid technologies. Methods for combining different technological principles in ways the Concordat had never imagined. We don't need to match your production, Rodriguez replied. We've already changed how the galaxy thinks about production itself. In the Nexus Command Center, reports flooded in. Dozens of species were already implementing human innovations. The Concordats' technological monopoly was breaking down not through military defeat, but through the spread of ideas. "This is unprecedented," HFY observed. "No species has ever challenged the Concordats' technological dominance. But humans, you're not trying to dominate. You're teaching others to innovate for themselves." Dr. Wong nodded. "That's the difference. The Concordat gives technology and creates dependency. We share knowledge and create partners." The space battle ended not with a decisive victory, but with the Concordat fleet facing a reality they couldn't counter. Their weapons couldn't effectively target the human ships. Their strategies couldn't predict human tactics. And worst of all, their authority was being undermined not by force, but by innovation. First Speaker Zera faced a choice: escalate the conflict and risk losing everything, or acknowledge that the galaxy had changed. The humans hadn't just developed new technology. They'd developed new ways of thinking about technology, about cooperation, about civilization itself. The innovation war would be remembered not for its battles, but for how it reshaped galactic society. Humanity had proven that true power didn't come from controlling technology, but from unleashing the creative potential of all species. 1 year after first contact, the galaxy had changed more than it had in the previous 1,000 years. The Grand Concordat Chamber, once a place of rigid hierarchy and careful control, now hosted a different kind of gathering. Representatives from Earth sat alongside members of the Nexus and reformed Concordat species, their presence a symbol of how completely the old order had been transformed. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the assembled delegates, her hologram projected across thousands of worlds. Behind her, real-time displays showed the fruits of human innovation spreading across the galaxy. Hybrid technologies that combined multiple species principles, quantum manufacturing techniques that had revolutionized production, and most importantly, new methods of collaboration that transcended traditional boundaries. "We never wanted to replace the Concordat's leadership," she began. "We wanted to transform how the galaxy thinks about progress itself." In Earth orbit, the Prometheus had become a symbol of this new approach. Its hybrid design was now being studied by engineers from 100 species, not because it was the most powerful ship in space, but because it represented a new way of thinking about technology. Admiral Rodriguez stood on its bridge, watching ships from former enemy species dock with human vessels to exchange ideas and innovations. "A year ago, they thought we were primitives," she mused to her XO. "Now they're learning that questioning everything is the most advanced technology of all." The Concordat had not fallen, it had evolved. First Speaker Zera, her crystalline form now showing patterns that would have been considered chaotic a year ago, addressed the chamber. "For 10,000 years, we believed we had perfected civilization. We gave gifts to new species and expected gratitude. We shared technology but maintained control. The humans showed us a different path, not through force, but through questions we have forgotten to ask." Commander Xera of the Nexus, now leading the Joint Human-Alien Research Initiative, displayed the latest statistics. Species that had adopted human-inspired innovation protocols were advancing faster than at any point in recorded history. But more importantly, they were advancing in unique ways, developing technologies that suited their specific needs and abilities. "The humans didn't give us technology," she explained. "They gave us permission to think differently, to question, to combine ideas in ways we had been taught were impossible." Dr. Wong, working from a new quantum research facility on Mars, demonstrated the latest breakthrough. A system that allowed species to share not just technology, but ways of thinking about technology. It was a meta-innovation platform, something the Concordat would never have conceived of in its old form. "The future isn't about who has the most advanced technology," he told the chamber. "It's about who can create the most opportunities for innovation. And that means everyone must be free to question, to experiment, to fail, and to try again." The changes weren't just technological. Across the galaxy, societies that had been locked in comfortable stagnation for millennia were experiencing cultural renaissances. Art forms combining multiple species perspectives emerged. Philosophy underwent a revolution as different ways of thinking collided and combined. First speaker Zara approached the human delegation after the formal session. "We feared you would destroy our civilization," she admitted. "Instead, you've helped us remember what civilization is for. Not control, but growth. Not stability, but evolution." The new galactic alliance that emerged wasn't based on technological superiority or carefully managed gifts. It was founded on principles that humans had taken for granted: the right to question, the freedom to innovate, the value of diversity in thought and approach. Admiral Rodriguez, standing with representatives from 50 species aboard the Prometheus, watched Earth rotate below. "You know what the real breakthrough was?" she asked. "Not any particular technology. It was the idea that every species has something unique to contribute. That progress comes from combination, not control." As ships from across the galaxy gathered for the first innovation exchange, the true impact of humanity's influence became clear. They hadn't conquered the galaxy. They hadn't even tried to dominate it. Instead, they had introduced something far more powerful than any weapon or technology: the idea that the future belongs to those who dare to question it. Dr. Chen, concluding her address to the chamber, summed up the transformation. "We turned gifts into questions, fear into curiosity, and control into collaboration. That's the real human technology. Not what we build, but how we think about building it." The galaxy had entered a new era, one where progress wasn't measured in military might or technological control, but in the freedom to imagine and the courage to create. Humanity's greatest contribution wasn't any single innovation. It was teaching the galaxy how to innovate for itself.